What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, we have seen enough of the Anthony Richardson hate over the last week with the preseason games over, and we've seen enough of it now. We have to talk about it some more, guys, because, listen, some of y'all are jumping off the hype train before it even got started, and we're here to call you guys out. We're here to set the record straight. Let's get into it, guys. All right, so with Anthony Richardson, played in the third preseason game against the Cincinnati Bengals. That first drive of the game, Anthony Richardson looked almost flawless. Almost nothing more he could have done differently to have made you think he was ready. He is there. And then a couple drives after, had a couple bad throws that ultimately didn't go his way. It helped keep the Bengals close in the game. And then you saw people going from Anthony Richardson is him to people then saying that they are completely out on Anthony Richardson. Shouldn't play, needs to be benched, or he's going to be so bad during the season that Joe Flacco is going to come in and start a quarterback controversy because the Indianapolis Colts made a severe mistake drafting Anthony Richardson in the first round of the 2023 draft. So listen, guys, we got to talk about this because I think this is some of the most overhyped analysis that we have ever seen from a quarterback in the preseason. Cody, I don't know about you, and it could be different, and you may have a differing opinion of this than me, but I don't know if I have ever seen a quarterback who especially is in his second season as the quarterback of a team, in which he played a few games in his rookie year, had an injury, didn't play, and you have people on the national media stage sitting there telling you that they are out on a player who has already been announced as the starter of the team, have gone this quickly to say that they are out on that player as a quarterback in a preseason game. I don't know if I have ever seen this much rash judgment from a quarterback ever from a preseason performance. I don't know if I've ever seen it. What about you?
It's really ridiculous, to be honest with you. It's very much for clicks. It's very obvious at this point. Like, you can't even try to hide it. And sometimes I just wonder about the integrity of some people, because it's like, really? You're going to say that crap, which you know is not true. Like, let's be honest. Like, unless these people are just completely ignorant, like, it's all for clicks. It has to be. That's what it has to be, man, because there's no way. Like you said, Anthony Richardson didn't even play the full season last year. He's played 10 quarters of meaningful football, and he's had a couple preseason games. That's it. That's all he's had at the NFL level. So I can't even imagine trying to pass judgment on any quarterback. If it's Anthony Richardson, if it's whoever, like, it doesn't matter. And also, I'll throw this out there, Derek. Anthony Richardson is one of, if not the youngest player to start this year. Obviously, it was last year and this year at the quarterback position. So extremely young player. Still has a long way to go. But yeah, just passing judgment off of a preseason game where, yes, he had a couple throws that were not good. Let's be honest. Like, we can say that. Like, we're not above criticizing Anthony Richardson. We've done it, He's not a perfect quarterback. He's not anywhere where he needs to be, right? But to say that you're out on a player that's 22 years old, that has all the talent in the world, and yes, has some struggles as a young quarterback, just like every other young quarterback does. And you think about it, even some of the quarterbacks that came out this year, Derek, how much experience they had in college. Like, they had multiple years of being starters or playing organized football, right? Anthony Richardson, he hasn't had that. He hasn't had that, right? So for me, it's just kind of ridiculous to throw that out there. It's like, okay, if Anthony Richardson was a 24-year-old player who has shown no signs of improvement, going into year 3 or 4, okay, then that's a different conversation. But Derek, we've already seen it in the preseason. Anthony Richardson has looked better in training camp and in the preseason from his rookie season to his second season. He has already looked better, and that's with only playing 10 quarters of football last year.
Yep.
So, for me, I think to say those things, to pass those judgments on a young player are kind of ridiculous. Can you imagine? I know you brought this up on our recap, but like a player like Josh Allen, look how terrible he was in really his first 2 seasons. He played a lot in his first couple seasons, had those inaccuracy issues. He struggled. He was very physically gifted, but he struggled with those issues. And while Josh Allen's not the perfect quarterback, don't get me wrong, my point is, Derek, it took him time to grow and to become more accurate and to just learn things with experience, right? So when it comes to Anthony Richardson, for me, man, I'm like, look, why are we surprised that this kid has issues? He's not perfect. He has some accuracy issues from time to time. The timing is off at times, right? Like, that is not unexpected. If you have been following the Colts and you didn't buy into the Anthony Richardson's going to be the MVP this year, like, we never bought into that. And if you bought into that, that's probably why the reactions are as harsh as they are, because that was the expectation set not by us, but by others, right? We never said that. We thought Anthony Richardson, as excited of a player as he is, he's still essentially in his pseudo-rookie year.
Yeah.
So he's going to have issues. He's going to grow. That's how you get these guys to where they need to be, is getting them out on the field and kind of as they go along, as they grow, as they mature, as they get experiences at the NFL level, they're going to get better, right? The fact that Anthony Richardson, despite only playing in 10 quarters, already looks better in year 1 to year 2, I think is a very positive step, Derek, because he's gotten better without even seeing the field for a lot of time, like in a serious, like legitimate NFL game setting. So you just think if he's on the field, how much better is he going to get even this season? Through the course of this season, how much better can he get? How much of the things that we saw in the preseason game is he going to, by week 15, week 17, or even next year, going to be better at, just naturally, So I just think it's kind of insane to judge a player based off of what is essentially his pseudo-rookie year. He's 22 years old. He's got the world ahead of him. He's still going to grow. He's not a perfect quarterback. He wasn't super accurate in college. So he's got to continue to get better in those ways. He's got to get better in his footwork. He's got to get better in some ways, just like any other quarterback has to coming out of college. So that's my mini rant there, man. But I guess it's like if you've been following along and actually been understanding where Anthony Richardson was last year and where he is this year, you look at it and you say, I'm not surprised he is where he is. He's about where we expected. Honestly, I put a tweet out like after the game and I'm like, this is exactly where I expected Anthony Richardson to be, right? He has the highlight plays. He has the plays where you're like, wow, oh my goodness, only a handful of guys can make those plays at the quarterback position. But then he has those plays where it's frustrating. There's growing pains. I'm not shocked at all. And you shouldn't be either. We're not shocked. You shouldn't be either. So let's calm it down. Stop talking about Anthony Richardson like he's a quarterback that we should be expecting to throw for 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Let's stop with that. And let's just look at him for where he was coming out of college, where he was his rookie year, where he's right now, and where he's projecting to go.
And I think ultimately what this stems down from, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm one of those people that has insanely high expectations of Anthony Richardson. There's very few people that have higher expectations for what Anthony Richardson can become than myself. I will firmly admit that. But like you said, you and I have not been excused from giving out the excuse card to Anthony Richardson. We have both said things that he needs to get better at. I think the problem that we are seeing right now is there's not enough known of Anthony Richardson and how he can become for people to grasp a better understanding of what Anthony Richardson is. I mean, like we said, he came in last year, the most inexperienced quarterback we've seen in a while, and he was drafted in the top 5 of the first round. purely off of the expectation that at some point, if this kid gets the right system in place, he can be one of the best quarterbacks if he is put in the right system with the right coaching and the right time and the right roster around him. And obviously, last year got hurt so much, we still don't know enough about him. So the general consensus, especially with other people, because the Colts are not a big market. Most people don't know about the Indianapolis Colts, or they may be smart people, but they're not smart enough to understand what the system is going on for the Colts. And he gets hurt in the first couple weeks of the season. He can't play, and therefore we have a bad situation. And then he comes in. We're talking about how good he's looked in training camp, which he has. I think that tells you right there, Cody, is that, again, you and I have seen his first preseason, his second preseason. And I think you and I can both collectively sit here and say he has had a lot more better performances in training camp this year than he had last year, by far. So when he goes into week 3 of the preseason, and then that first drive looks amazing. The next couple drives doesn't look good. It did not look good. We will admit that. But I think like you said, I brought this up in the recap. We're talking about a preseason game in which his best running back is not out there. The circumstances in which he's playing, he's not at home. And a couple other things is that your coach is telling you you're not allowed to run. You're not allowed to extend the play. You're not allowed to run the designed plays that we have for you when the regular season comes. So there's a lot of different things that happen in which he is limited by what is around him and what system he's allowed to run in that moment. And then on top of it, I know people are saying, yes, he's playing backups, like he should have been better. But the whole point is Anthony Richardson, we've already known, has things that he needs to get better at. There's going to be inaccuracy issues from time to time because he's still getting used to it. He's 22 years old. He's 2 years younger than Michael Penix, who just got drafted this year. I mean, think about that. And he's 2 years younger than Bo Nix, who just got drafted this year. He's 2 years younger than some of the oldest quarterbacks that got drafted a year later than him. So there is going to be a lot more reps that he needs to get extremely comfortable being in the NFL, especially after coming off of a season-ending injury. But I just sit there and I'm looking to myself like, how can you take a small sample size, a quarter of football in a preseason game, and then dictate from that point forward that this guy's a bust? Like, how can you possibly say from one quarter of a preseason game and not take the 10 quarters of football from last season and sit there and not have said that last year? Like, because none of these guys said that last year. All the Herb Street and the other guy that were on air talking about how there's going to be a quarterback controversy because Anthony Richardson's going to suck so much in the first half of the season that Joe Flacco is going to have to come in and the Colts are going to have to rethink their quarterback situation. Or you got freaking Kurt Benkert going online, and he's not the only one. There's plenty of other people that are saying, like, I'm out on Anthony Richardson, out already. Like, how can you possibly sit there and say that? You act like he's the first quarterback in NFL history, or one of the only few quarterbacks in NFL history to ever throw a pick six. Like, I'm sorry, most people have thrown a pick six in the NFL. Like, it happens a lot. I mean, even Josh Allen, as you mentioned earlier, Cody, Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback. You know, he leads the NFL in turnovers amongst quarterbacks. So despite him being great, he turns the ball over a lot. And that's one of those things that you just learn to deal with it because the positives outweigh the negatives. when it comes to Josh Allen. And that's what we want for Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson has to make these mistakes in order to know what to do. And it's okay to make those mistakes in the preseason. Doesn't matter if it's against backups. You make those mistakes now when they don't matter. But, I mean, it's just so ridiculous that so many people are willing to admit that it has changed their way of thinking about a quarterback who is 22 years old, who has played in 25 games since high school, and you're willing to sit here and say that his future as an Indianapolis Colt should already be in jeopardy. Like, it just makes no sense.
Yeah, and I will say this, Derek, like Anthony Richardson, like we said, he has shown growth from his rookie season to his second season throwing the football. Like there's no doubt, unequivocally, he has shown improvement. But he is not, by far, not a finished product. He is still, I would not say, a great quarterback at throwing the football. Like, I think that's fair to say. And, like, that's okay. Like, you know, he had, like you said, he had accuracy issues at Florida. He didn't complete a ton of passes, like, you know, but, like, he's getting better and he's showing progression, which I think is a positive step. And like you said, he's only 22 years old. So, like, he's only going to get better. If he's already shown improvement from 10 quarters of meaningful football and a full off season, like, how much is it going to do wonders for him this year to be on the field, to make mistakes, to have issues, to be in those situations where he's got to step it up and he's got to learn on the fly? Like, I think those are just going to be invaluable for a player like Anthony Richardson. So valuable for him to be in those situations that, unfortunately, due to the injury, he wasn't able to be in a lot last year. Like a game like the Baltimore game, for example, last year. Can you imagine how good that would have been for Anthony Richardson's development to be in a hostile environment, to have to go against a playoff Super Bowl contender and show what he's got, right? So, like, those sort of situations that he's going to be in this year, if he's on the field, like, I think those are going to be so valuable for him. And, you know, the sky's pointing up. Like, the arrow is pointing up for Anthony Richardson, right? The fact that he's shown that improvement, like, why can't he take a big leap this year? Like, why can't he take a big leap in the next few years? There's no reason to say he can't, right? Where he is right now, I think a lot of people, like, look at him where he's at right now and think that's just where he's going to be his entire career. But, like, guys, there's a thing called improvement. There's a thing called growth. And Anthony Richardson is, as much as anybody, especially considering his age and inexperience, I think he's a prime candidate to have one of the most growing seasons out of any quarterback starting. I don't think that's a stretch to say at all when it comes to Anthony Richardson. So is he a perfect polished passer? Absolutely not. He's still got a long way to go. But that's the point, Derek. Like you said, like, how do you expect this young kid to grow if he's not out there making mistakes, having problems sometimes, having issues, but also learning from those issues and coming back and showing what he's made of, right? That's the only way that Anthony Richardson's going to grow, is if he goes through those times, the good and the bad.
The problem you have is you have this new day and age of NFL quarterback comparison where if the guy's not a top 5 quarterback, like, right away, then you have a bunch of people that are just like, yeah, sorry, don't want anything to do with you. I mean, it has come to that. It's like and it's sad too, because even a lot of the national media people, or the people that are supposed to understand football, are going on air or going on social media and are telling you flat out to your face that because of 14 passes, you can dictate that somebody's career is not it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I wish, I mean, obviously not for censorship, but obviously when it comes to, you know, like, some people should just not be allowed to talk or say certain arguments, because some of the arguments you make is just so stupid. I mean, you cannot sit there and say you know something based off of 14 passes. You just can't. You don't know. You don't understand. And it's sad, because you're supposed to understand, or you're supposed to have a little bit more of an understanding that, hey, you know, this guy clearly has a lot more work to do. But I'm not going to sit here and suggest that, oh, this clearly shows that Anthony Richardson's not it. Like, have some accountability for the words that come out of your mouth. If you're going to come out and you're going to sit there and suggest that 14 passes shows you that there's a quarterback controversy in Indianapolis, I really don't know what to tell you. I really am struggling to understand the concept of what goes through your mind on why you think that it is. And the only way I can think of it is you're not paying attention to the Indianapolis Colts. You're not seeing anything else other than what's being put on in front of your face and not accepting or understanding that everything is vanilla in preseason games.
And also, how can you make a snap judgment of a situation you don't understand, a quarterback you don't understand? And it's just odd. The people that are making these statements should know better, Derek. Like Kirk Herbstreit. Come on, man. You've literally been commentating on football for years.
Mm-hmm.
For years. To make a statement like that is unbelievably ignorant. Honestly, that is unbelievably ignorant to say something like that in a preseason game nonetheless. If this is the middle of the season, Anthony Richardson looks horrible. Okay, I understand that. But if it is a preseason game, come on, man. You should know better. Former players, you should know better as well, right? So I do think, Derek, like I said at the beginning, it is all for views, all for clicks, all for all that clickbaity type of stuff. That's what it has to be, because there's no way anybody can logically say that and actually legitimately do your research and come at it from an objective opinion. Because if you come from it, take our fandom out of it. I'm just talking about any quarterback that would come out. If there's a quarterback that comes out next year that's in a similar situation, super athletic, super raw, we're not going to say that the team should give up on them after a couple games of preseason. Come on, man. Take it easy a little bit.
So let's take into example, Bo Nix has looked unbelievable this year as the quarterback for the Broncos during the preseason. Looked fantastic. He even did some great things against the Colts. Am I going to sit here and suggest that Bo Nix is going to be a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson by the end of the year? Of course not. I'm not going to sit there and suggest that. He looked better during the preseason. Great, because Bo Nix has had a lot of reps. He's played a lot of football in college. He's had a lot more reps than Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson's also been in the NFL for a year longer, and he has a talent that Bo Nix does not possess, and that's being able to move with his feet. And he's got a better arm than Bo Nix. Bo Nix may be a more accurate quarterback right now, and he might be someone that might have a better understanding of where to go with the football, potentially. But it's taking so much into account. Again, preseason, nobody is showing you everything. No one is showing you everything. There is plenty of things that are being hidden from other teams while in the preseason, because it's just not real football. So why would you want to go out there and show everything you have if not? And again, during that game against in the preseason game against the Bengals, yes, there was probably 3 or 4 throws that Anthony Richardson did not make well. He obviously threw the pick 6. He threw it behind the tight end. He knew it right away. The tight end knew it right away. The offensive coordinator knew it right away. He fixed that. That's that. Then there's maybe 2 or 3 throws after that were just a little high. Just a little high. We kind of expect that. But there were also some throws in that game in which he put it right where it was supposed to be and the wide receiver didn't catch it. That's what we're talking about here, is you can't, people are taking everything without thinking too much into it. And it bothers me that someone like myself as a fan can sit here and understand the concept that just because a play goes wrong doesn't always mean it's the quarterback's fault. I know these quarterbacks get paid more money than everybody else in the league, and they're the guy, they get all the credit when they win and all the blame when they lose. But I'm not with that. There are 53 men that get put on the sideline. And if you account for coaches and everything else, you got 80 plus people on that sideline that their job is to make sure that they win football games that's on the Sundays. And yes, the quarterback may be one of the most vital pieces of information when it comes to that win, but he is not every reason why they win or lose. And so it does bother me that there's so many people, smart people that understand football, that don't understand that concept.
Context matters, like you said. Absolutely. So, yeah, I know that it'll definitely spark some debate in our comment section. There'll be people who, are with us and the people who are against us and think Anthony Richardson's going to be a bust. That's fine. You can have your opinion, even if we disagree. We say this just based off of how we feel, how our opinion is with it, because I do think it is kind of ridiculous. But if you don't agree, that's okay. Just be respectful of that. That's all I ask. I don't ever want to say, if you view this some other way, you're stupid or whatever. We just try to take it as looking at it from our perspective and just try to, as much as possible, especially in these kind of conversations, keep it as objective as possible, because it can be easy for the fandom to slip in a little bit. But we try our best, especially in a situation like this. If we took away our fandom, how would we look at it? And I think, honestly, Derek, when it comes to this, I don't know about you, but I personally feel like I would look at it in a very similar way, regardless if it was the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts or if it was the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. I don't care. It needs to be a conversation that's had for sure. So, guys, let us know your thoughts overall here on all this crap kind of around Anthony Richardson right now, for what people are saying, what people are not saying, all this stuff. It's kind of been a crapshoot on Twitter and social media as of recent when it comes to Anthony Richardson. This is kind of how we view it. So let us know what you think. If you agree or disagree, that's fine. Just let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.